So now we have troops on the streets in Los Angeles. We have troops on the streets in Washington, D.C. We have the dictator Trump saying he's going to introduce troops on the streets in other cities. He wants to unseat Maduro in Venezuela because of all the oil they have. Never mind the excuses he gives. They always do that. It's because of all the oil there. And we're seeing, ironically, everything that I've been warning about coming to fruition in the United States, everywhere else too, but in the United States, via a man who claims to oppose what he's introducing. There's no better example of someone who has sold out to a colossal extent, indeed totally, than Alex Jones. I was pointing this stuff out a long time ago, and then along came Alex Jones later, but still a long time ago. And he was talking about all these things that Trump is introducing, and he was opposing them. He was warning about them. And now, day after day, he's promoting them. The latest one, which I found absolutely staggering last night, is that he's supporting Trump's desire to use troops to unseat Maduro in Venezuela and to put troops into Mexico against the will of the Mexican government, using the excuse of drug cartels or whatever. So what they want is a civil war in these various countries, which will allow them to impose their fascist tyranny to stop the war, stop the civil war. Understanding of what the game is, because for a very long time, I've been at this now full time since 1990. And in those early years of the 1990s and even across the millennium, it was difficult for large numbers of people to see the validity of what I said in terms of this unfolding plan to create a global dystopia, because it wasn't, especially in the 1990s, so much in their face. It's like they were looking at it and they were experiencing it, but not in a way where it made itself clear. You had as I said at the time, you had this global cult, which is network of global secret societies with an interlocking leadership, walking into the room and putting itself on public display for anyone who was even vaguely paying attention. And since then, it's become more and more obvious to more and more people what's happening. But it's still not being grasped by the vast majority. And the whole foundation of the plan is to keep it as much as you can from the target population, so they don't see where it's going. And they have a problem with that because you can manipulate under the surface, under the radar, for a long time, putting things into place just below the surface. But there comes a point when, and we're in it now, where if you're going to transform society in the way that you've always planned to, then there comes a point where you have to break the surface where people can see it. And as we're moving closer and closer to 2030 and beyond, more and more pillars of this plan are appearing. And if anyone reads my books from way back, they'll see what is happening now described in terms of what the plan was. And people say to me, how did you predict what was going to happen? I'm not Nostradamus. What I've done is work to uncover the plan, which they don't want us to know, and I've communicated that to anyone that wants to listen. Now, if the plan is not dealt with, if there's not an intervention to stop the plan happening, then the plan becomes the future. In other words, by predicting the plan, if nothing intervenes to stop it, you are essentially predicting the future. And I've been far too accurate in that than I ever wanted to be. Because the whole point of what I've been doing this past, nearly 36 years now, is to alert people, hopefully enough people, to intervene. And unfortunately, the acquiescence, that shite inside us, not me, thank goodness, and not a lot of other people, but the vast majority, it's had not just a physical effect, that's clear, but a psychological effect on many people as well, which has made it more and more difficult for people to see through the smoke screens, if you like, to what is really happening and to manifest the desire to do something about it. So I've had this phrase I've used for a long time now, know the outcome and you'll see the journey, because if you don't know what the outcome is planned to be, then everything that happens every day it's a random event, bewildering event often. Why are they doing this? Why are they doing that? What's the point of doing this or that?
Yeah, it's not a conspiracy theorist, it's a coincidence theorist.
Yeah, a coincidence theory, exactly. But what happens when you know what the outcome is planned to be is it transforms immediately those events and happenings from random to, stepping stones to the outcome. And if you therefore look at what the plan is, there are many elements to it, the vast majority of them psychological, actually, because you control perception, you control behavior. The foundation of it is to fuse humans with artificial intelligence. So artificial intelligence becomes the human mind. Now, I've been calling out since way back Elon Musk as a fraud in many ways and a liar in many ways, endless ways, but a fraud in the area I'm talking about now, in the sense that he set himself up as an AI skeptic, as, I'm on your side. But look at him now, as he was always going to do. The Twitter X platform is Page, which has the algorithms on full blast. Thus, he gets millions or tens of millions of views for every post, no matter how inane. His page is now about 90% selling AI to people openly, more and more aggressively and more obviously, because they're all moving. And when you talk about Elon Musk, you can't talk about him without talking about Peter Thiel at Palantir, the man who's funded the political career of J.D. Vance, and Mark Andreessen, and David Sachs, who is a friend of all these people, an associate of all these people, and was named by Trump when he came to power for the second time in January as his AI czar, David Sachs, and crypto czar. And they are driving this AI agenda. Within 2 days of getting back into the White House, Trump hosted a Oval Office press conference with people like Larry Ellison of Oracle and Sam Altman of ChatGPT and OpenAI to announce an up to $500 billion AI massive expansion called Stargate. There have been White House press releases since then pointing out the importance that the Trump administration, i.e. the oligarchs of Silicon Valley, the AI oligarchs, the Trump administration officially sees AI as absolutely numero uno and essential to what it's trying to achieve. And you've got people like Ray Kurzweil at Google, the futurist, the Google executive, who long ago got one of his books back here, The Singularity is Near, which lays out, as he has in interviews, the fact that by 2030, he gives that name, that date, there will be a fusion of humans and AI. And in his words, once that connection is made, AI will do more and more of human thinking until human thinking is negligible, which of course it means deleted. So we are looking while all these diversions go on, because if that's the goal, you want people looking over here. What's Trump saying today? Trump or Harris? Trump or Biden? What's he said? What's Trump saying about Obama? What's Obama saying about Trump? All this diversion while, boom, the jackboots move on towards an AI human being. Let me point out the game that's going on. There's the hard sell of AI and the human fusion, and that's coming from your Bill Gateses, from your Klaus Schwab's when he was head of the World Economic Forum, and people like Kurzweil, but others too. Musk, to an extent, he's moving into that camp now. But before that, he was the soft seller of AI. And what I mean by that is he, as I mentioned already, he placed himself as an AI skeptic. In other words, I'm on your side. I'm very worried about this. Could be the end of humanity. It was one of his phrases. But from the moment he said that, he went on pushing AI, which is like contradictory to say the least. And he then, this was crucial, he was then allowed to buy Twitter X. And I say allowed because I know from my personal experience, and so many others do, that the deep state, as they call it, and every country has one, and they're all connected, the deep state had control of Twitter. It was throwing people off, me included, for having the wrong opinion. And so it had everything that it wanted. It had control of what was seen on Twitter. So why, the question should be asked, did the deep state then allow Elon Musk to buy Twitter, who was claiming, wrongly, but claiming to be a free speech absolutist?
Yeah, but I also don't understand is like, you can't become the richest man in the world without the support of the financial elite and the globalists. Like, people seem to want to believe in fairy tales. You can't get to become so high, so much on top, so much power, and being like the Batman who goes against all the other financial big players. That is just delusional.
Exactly. And that's a massive red flag and flashing red lights, because if they wanted to bring Musk down, and if they wanted to bring Trump down, they could do it overnight. The current rate, Elon Musk, for example, is getting $8 million a day from the government of the United States for his various companies, $8 million a day in subsidies. Now, he was allowed to buy Twitter, and he puts out these Twitter files after he bought it. By the way, he didn't buy it alone. He bought it with a load of people who were the usual suspects, but tried very hard to keep that knowledge secret. Unfortunately, through a court case, it came out. It's now owned by his, appropriately, given what I've just said, it's now owned by his XAI company. That's who owns now Twitter, because a Twitter X is a vehicle to sell XAI. Anyway, he put out these documents, emails, whatever, from the Twitter before, and they became known as the Twitter files. He only put out a few. And they confirmed that the deep state controlled Twitter before him. So again, why would the deep state, having got what it wants, hand it away. They didn't. And it was very clear to me, having tracked Musk for years before he bought Twitter X, that there was a scam going on in allowing him to buy it. The question was only the detail of what the scam was, and that became clear very quickly. Because what has happened when the alternative media came into its own and started to be a focus of a lot more people in terms of where they got the information from, they were getting a bit out of hand, the genuine alternative media. And so they brought in, and I watched it happen, a load of people from the mainstream, and they became the stars of the alternative media, who were given massive algorithmic support and funding support, and have basically focused attention on them in terms of the uncovering of the, quote, conspiracy. And what they've done is regressed the alternative media from the understanding, which was widespread and still is in the genuine alternative media, that we live in one-party states. It's been regressed into, no, the deep state is not working through all the parties. It's the Democrats in the American example, which is nonsensical. The deep state works through all these different parties to target different areas of society. And that's a point I'll come to now, because once Musk bought Twitter X, suddenly the alternative media, that mainstream part of it and others, was suddenly their guard came down. Before he bought Twitter X, there were a significant number of people in the alternative media who were saying, hey, this guy Musk, he's a transhumanist. He wants us all connected to AI. Outrageous. But once he bought Twitter X, so much of that, the vast majority of that, just faded away because he's one of us now. And it was a scam. And when he started funding Trump into power before they're falling out, and that falling out seems to be diluting by the day.
The thing that I find also interesting about this specific topic, I think I heard Catherine Austin Fitz talk about it, and I think it's an interesting theory. Musk sponsored Trump. And why did he get Doge? They say, oh, to make the government more efficient. Her theory is, and it's also interesting with AI, no, he wanted to get access to the governmental data.
That's exactly, that's my take as well. And again, everything connects if you talk long enough. So I mentioned earlier a guy called Peter Thiel at Palantir, for those who haven't come across it, and I do strongly recommend you research it, is a company that was seed funded by the CIA, headed by Peter Thiel, another guy called Alex Karp, and there's other guys involved as well. And what they do, Palantir, is they provide surveillance and data processing technology for intelligence agencies, not just American, and for the military. And they are fundamental and central to what you're talking about here, which is the deletion of checks and balances and firewalls between different organizations, even parts of government, where information about all of us is held in compartmentalized areas. So there's no one place where you can go and then get everything, or at least in theory, about someone. But what Trump has done is give Palantir the contract to do exactly that. So they're looking for data. Everything is data. Data is control. And what Musk's Doge was doing was using AI, actually, to trawl the data of the American population for this whole massive data structure, this data network that they're building. And so when Musk was funding Trump to power with his $250 million, it was par for the course. It was no surprise to me, because it was exactly what you would expect. And since he's come to power, like I say, Trump, it's AI this and AI that, and the whole focus has been AI. in the administration, if not so much publicly, in the sense of the scale of what's actually going on behind the scenes. And now we have Elon Musk, who the big point where the dynamic changed from I'm an AI skeptic to what he's become, a total AI sales pitcher, was when he said that AI was inevitable, when he said AI fusion with humans was inevitable. Because when you're trying to stop something, you try to stop it. But when you think that what you're trying to stop is inevitable, the dynamic changes dramatically, because now you're not trying to stop it because you don't think you can. Now you're trying to mitigate the effect as best you can. And basically what Musk was saying is, look, it's inevitable, but trust me, because I'm a skeptic like you. And what you've had is the hard sell of your Gateses and your Kurzweils, etc. That's been given overwhelmingly to the left in politics, which is basically has gone with it. And then the big problem was the right, what's become known in America as the MAGA. They're very skeptical, or were very skeptical, about this AI control system, which is not just about a fusion with humans. It's AI controlling everything. Your money, where you can go and where you can't go, everything. And so the target in this pre-2030 period was that skeptical group that didn't want the AI control system. And what's happened, and it's all psychological, it's all perceptual manipulation, is that they've done what they always do. They target a group, a mentality, and they tell it what it wants to hear. So they look at what it's concerned about. Okay, I'm concerned about immigration. I'm concerned about this nonsense of climate change and net zero. I'm concerned about this, that, the other. And what you then do is you put someone up like Trump, who is an ideological neutral zone. The only thing he thinks about is him and how he looks. Just talk to anyone who knows him and they'll tell you exactly the same story. He's a front man. And what he has been doing, because he's very good at manipulating his base, is telling them what they want to hear. And while he's doing that and focusing their attention, the AI agenda has rushed forward. And so he's, for instance, if you're concerned about immigration, then what you do is you say, yeah, but if we're going to stop this illegal immigration, we've got to have digital IDs. That'll stop it. Then we'll know who people are. But hold on, the hard sell of Gates and Co. is for digital IDs. And in Britain, the cult guy who, every time he opens his mouth, the cult is speaking, Tony Blair, the former prime minister, he's pushing digital IDs. Anyone who's of the cult is pushing digital IDs. But what you have in America is they're trying to get this skeptical group on board with it. And for instance, I'll give you a wonderful example of that. That we're seeing in the European Union, and we're seeing it more and more in Britain too, the movement towards central bank digital currencies. Now, they want a digital currency. I've been saying this since 1992-3 in a book called The Robots' Rebellion. They want an end of cash, and they want digital currencies. Digital currencies that are programmable. So you can program them so you can only buy what they're programmed for you to buy. Things they don't want you to buy, the programming won't allow them to buy, even if it's your money in theory. Programmable also means they can program this currency so it can only be spent in a particular area. And if you go outside that area, then you've got no money because it won't work. And in America, the MAGA has been vehemently opposed to central bank digital currencies. And people talk about Russia and Putin as being different. No, he's not. That we have the digital ruble. The same AI digital control system is unfolding in Russia as it is everywhere else. So you have this pushback on central bank digital currencies in the United States. So what Trump has done, tell them what they want to hear. He put out an executive order, basically a dictatorship diktat, saying America will never have a central bank digital currency. Whoa, we're winning. And then he introduces stable coins and promotes stable coins. Stable coins are a digital currency, a private digital currency that is programmable. So he's said we're not having this and then brings it in with the other hand. This is what's happening right across the board. And unfortunately, so many people are buying it, not realizing that they're actually supporting what they would have once have opposed. So now we have troops on the streets in Los Angeles. We have troops on the streets in Washington, D.C. We have the dictator Trump saying he's going to introduce troops on the streets in other cities. He wants to unseat Maduro in Venezuela because of all the oil they have. Never mind the excuses he gives. They always do that. It's because of all the oil there. And we're seeing, ironically, everything that I've been warning about coming to fruition in the United States, everywhere else too, but in the United States, via a man who claims to oppose what he's introducing. There's no better example of someone who has sold out to a colossal extent, indeed totally, than Alex Jones. I was pointing this stuff out a long time ago, and then along came Alex Jones later, but still a long time ago. And he was talking about all these things that Trump is introducing, and he was opposing them. He was warning about them. And now, day after day, he's promoting them. The latest one, which I found absolutely staggering last night, is that he's supporting Trump's desire to use troops to unseat Maduro in Venezuela and to put troops into Mexico against the will of the Mexican government, using the excuse of drug cartels or whatever. But if you put this thing together in a much more expanded way, you can go back to Elon Musk's grandfather, a guy called Haldeman, who was operating in Canada, and he was pushing something called technocracy. The technate, they called it. The technate, technocracy, is a form of government which they want globally, in which no longer do you have elected politicians. That's why they're putting so many moronic politicians into power, because they're trying to undermine public support for elected politicians. You look at the UK cabinet, there's not a brain cell to rub together, not two brain cells to rub together there in the cabinet of the UK, including the Prime Minister, Starmer. You look at the cabinet and the government of Trump in the United States, same. I'm sure you'll find, you look all over Europe, you'll find the same too. So the idea is that you have a government of appointees, of technocrats, of bureaucrats, of people running health systems, etc., appointed people. And the technate that Elon Musk's grandfather wanted and was supported by people in the United States, and the technocracy movement in the 1930s supported Adolf Hitler, by the way, they were planning a technate area that went from where? You can see the maps, the old maps from the 1930s. that goes from Venezuela in South America all the way through Central America, including Panama and Mexico, up through the United States, up through Canada, and guess where it ends in the north? Greenland. And when you look at targeting Venezuela, moving troops into Mexico, saying we want Canada to be the 51st state, which he never mentioned in the election campaign, and suddenly he comes to office and he's all over it, and why they want to include Greenland as an American territory is it's the technate unfolding. And these technates are designed to have their like all over the world under a world government, which again would be appointed, not elected. So when you've been doing it as long as I have, 36 years now, these things all fit. But if you're new to it, it's bewildering. And I understand why. It was bewildering to me in 1990. You don't see how the things fit. And therefore, I've just finished a new book, which is designed specifically to put these elements together and show how it all fits together. Because I see people, genuine people, who are opposing this, but supporting that. When that and this are both part of the same conspiracy for global dystopia.
Once again, the man of the moment, David Icke people, breaking down things like not many can do. Yo, man so accurate people. Civil War. Man send, people know already, I'm in the Caribbean. And Trump send fighter jet, Navy's boat, come in the Caribbean Sea, say, drugs and this and that and all these type of things. Trump want to raid Venezuela, basically. Want to raid it, people. But look at about this latest big distraction everybody I talk about this Charlie Kirk thing and my views and Charlie Kirk, them want people like all me. Be sorry FEMA or something. Or say, hey, condolence, what and what, hey, come on. These people don't like us. We know that. And so they push this immigration bullcrap. And these type of people are that and that type of people are this and we know the narratives, people. This guy see a lot of disparaging things, especially when it comes to blacks and other people and other groups, and yeah, that's him, people. So you cannot expect sympathy from people who you talk bad against and bring down and have no sympathy towards. Even this whole black thing, and they always say black this, criminal, black that. What about the fact that US government at that time consists of you know who and what and type of people. They push drugs in these black communities. They destroy uplifting communities. Remember the community that they bombed? You remember? We know these history, people. So when he's not factoring that in his analysis and those things, you can just see where it's coming from. And he's so intelligent, quote unquote intelligent, smart, deep researcher, but you're not factoring that. Huh? Or you're deliberately not factoring it in your analysis. God, that's how some people operate, people. They do things like these deliberately. But yeah, who knows? They have a shoulder, they say he was this, he was that, and turned out to be he was just like that guy. A radicalist. But that's the story, that's the narrative. But I don't trust these people, so I don't believe for 1 second what they're telling us is true. I don't believe people. I have no faith. I have no sort of trust in these guys. So there's my stance. There's my view, people. But we got David again, people. Wish if we have more David at videos, updated videos. But that's how I got, people. That's how I go. We need David at more than ever. Like right now. Big up David Icke. Heal David Icke. A true researcher. Deep thinker. And that's it. That's it, people. Strength, power to everybody. We're already on a journey. And we not give up, we not stop. Fight if we continue, man. Fight if we go on. Fight if we go on, people. We are against strong forces, but we are stronger in our numbers. So let's keep it up. Let's keep on going, people. Yeah.